All right. Good morning, everybody. I think we're all set and good to go. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so um, happy Monday to everybody. Welcome as always. Hopefully, you had a wonderful weekend and we're able to capitalize on last week's volatility in the market. My name is Jared, and this is Engineering the Markets. It is May 23rd, 2022, and we've got some interesting price levels and market reactions to assess for the week. But as we always do, let's get a sense of what the market is pricing for volatility purposes this week. If you recall, last week we had about a $132 expected move in the S&P 500, and that put our price levels at about 41.56 and downside 38.91. Last week was an interesting week for the option market. We did have a monthly option series that was getting rolled and closed out, and that provided a lot of option volume transactions on Friday. There's a couple of nodes of interest on Friday, specifically 380 in the SPY. 385 was kind of your midline, and then 390 was a relatively high volume node as well. If you dig into the S&Ps, you'll notice a lot of price interaction around those $5 levels. Most of that was facilitated by some of the option trading that was going on. So another couple of aspects from last week, we did have a breach of expected move on Friday, and the market was able to recover back into the expected move range right before close. So our level of interest was 38.91. We obviously traded lower than that on Friday, and that provided some expansion of volatility into the close, albeit the option rolling that occurred did make the volatility futures and our VIX go out slightly under 30. So some things to note from last week, our largest move, and this is from the close of the previous Friday to the absolute lows on the week, that was about 264 points. I'm actually noticing a disparity here, so I must have measured things incorrectly. So our largest move, about 264. I think this is a 3, but I'll double check that. And then our actual move, this is just from the close of Friday to the close of the previous Friday, basically the difference of the weekly closes. That's going to be about 100 points. So the market essentially from week to week declined another 100 points. And of course, there was some volatility in between. That's going to be seen as far as a technical sense, some of the topping and bottoming tails we got last week. So relatively high volatile week, lots of price activity in both directions. And then of course, the week ahead. So one thing that's interesting is we do have a lower expected move this week. The volatility range has contracted slightly, albeit the market has been breaching and breaking expected move. So that relative price is a bit of a warning for anyone who's going out selling option premium. We have been seeing at least a day or two of price activity outside of that bound most of the time. I see what's going on here. Apologies. I was using the wrong fields to get my measurement. So disregard some of the numbers, these 3 numbers here, based on the discussion we just had. So for this week, $125 expected move. Another thing that's important is where we touched yesterday or last Friday. and that was 20% down from the all-time high. So it is not necessarily that we have closed into a bear market, at least from the percentage drawdown perspective, but we have officially touched into that area. And this was something that was teased about a week prior. You'll notice how close we got to that price level just over about 2 Thursdays ago. So market is definitely testing and kind of teasing this correction at these price levels. But what makes this so interesting is a lot of price reactions can occur at these nuanced levels. For example, one thing we did find in the NASDAQ as it was correcting down approximately 20%. So let's just kind of view that really quickly. So as we were getting into that 20% level, this actually marked a location that for the most part was net bullish moving forward. There wasn't a lot of continual downside once we got to this level, and that actually sparked the first short covering rally and the first really impactful wave or impulsive wave higher before the next corrective wave to the downside. So definitely worth paying attention as to whether or not we continue to test this low, kind of trade around that relative price, along with just the idea that this has been the 7th week of decline in the SPY. So from a week to week perspective, we can mark that for pretty much every week since this start. We've had 3, 4, 5, and then here we are closing slightly lower, albeit the bottoming tail is of interest. But you'll notice the closes are lower. And then here, of course, we did close lower as well. So it's been about 7 weeks of lower settlement prices week to week. The S&P certainly feels like it's weak and feels as if it can't get out of its own way. But we always know that in between the price, there is some nuance as to whether or not this will continue, or if we're going to start seeing a bit more structure moving forward outside of our core downtrend. So let's kind of take a look at some of that and talk about some ideas for the week. As it is Monday, there's going to be a lot of relative volatility in the morning session, as any new positions are kind of allocated for the next month, along with looking maybe ahead into a relatively light set of earnings for the rest of the week. All in all, we don't have too much on deck for earnings this week. There is one name that does stand out, but the rest of the week tends to be relatively light, and that is, of course, Nvidia. So certainly some names to still keep focus on. You're just not finding those high impact names quite as much. And we'll actually look at Nvidia from a market cap perspective. One thing that's been quite interesting has been the change in market cap across the market. And what you'll notice is that Nvidia doesn't quite sit of the same impact as it used to. So, obviously take a look at the earnings calendar, identify names that you may wish to trade or keep a focus on. And there certainly are some names to maybe monitor, but we've gotten a lot of the relative volatility priced in from last week for names like Costco, which saw a similar decline as stocks like Walmart and Target after reporting earnings. So outside of earnings, though, let's look at the technicals here. So in the S&P, we did have a relative low last week that provided a bit of a question mark as to what the next move is going to look like. So obviously in a downtrend, you're always looking at moves that are breaking into fresh lows. You often want to see closure at those lows to essentially confirm that this is no longer the range of trade to be focused on. And often you're moving into, in this case, a lower price range for the next set of transactions. So you're going to see that quite often where you tend to stabilize. Often you'll have sort of a upper thrust into moving averages or resistant based trend lines. And then of course your downtrend structure offers new price ranges. You'll have moments of maybe false lows in between short-term trade that can provide upside opportunity, usually going back to your swing highs, depending on where the market has bounced. But as we know, the core downtrend still remains the momentum, and the market can easily trade much lower. And of course, set up new trading ranges here. The one that's of interest is, of course, from a Thursday ago. So basically, a week and a half of trade, this relative low. And then finally, the low that was made on Friday. So as we see, there is this non-acceptance at the moment of a fresh low in the market where we have closed below it. This doesn't necessarily mean that this downtrend is broken or anything is necessarily starting to change, but we can theorize what that would look like and how to confirm a posture change in the market. So first and foremost, core downtrend often has a bit of a downtrending resistance line. And we've obviously seen this a few times where you're just taking a relative trend line, you're noticing some channel structure, even where the lows tend to hit. This market, of course, has bounces. You just have to be positioned into weakness in order to facilitate the upside. So there are bounces, there are waves down, and of course, people are focused on the fact that we keep making fresh lows. As you move forward, though, you'll find moments where the market can pause. Usually those false lows are great signals. Sometimes you will have higher low structures or just equal lows. We're talking mostly about double and triple style bottoms, and this can set up trading ranges. As a bull in the market, this is actually a bit of a relief for potentially moving forward, because the first stage of stopping a downtrend is to basically stop selling. You don't want to make any more fresh lows, and you want the market to define where risk lies. In a downtrend, risk always lies on the sell swing low. But if you make a trading range, that low becomes a bit more solidified, and that can actually lead to a very powerful trade moving forward. Doesn't necessarily have to be a bullish one, but a trading range low breaking down or breaking out has much more energy behind it, as opposed to just the core momentum of a trend. So market certainly is posturing around this area. We're going to see what starts to happen as we maybe slightly test our downtrend resistance. And then, of course, if the trading range does form, ideally what you want to see is another test of our upper sell swing. And this would be, in one form or another, a move in the market that just kind of slowly grinds towards about 410, along with getting past 400, which would be our first resistance point for any upside that we do see. So what you'll notice here too is the channel aspect doesn't necessarily play well whenever the market starts to base out. Usually when you're in a downtrending channel, whenever the market cannot get to the lower bound of a bearish channel or the upper bound of a bullish channel, that can set up structures that lead to trend reversals. Obviously, it's a moment to pay attention, not necessarily to enact a trade, but you theorize around them. You talk about the idea of the market not breaking this low, trending to resistance, and then setting up something short term that allows you outside. And that's where you can often see bullish momentum take over and a lot of relative short covering in the market, as what was working is no longer taking place. And that's, of course, your sell swings against this channel. So it's simple if-then conditions for the market. The bearish channel sort of reigns supreme, but when you notice false lows like we had last week, that's when you start to pay attention. Maybe being a bear in this location doesn't make as much sense anymore moving forward. You might want to play things a little bit more cautionary and allow the market to set up once again bearish in order to reenact more downside. Otherwise, you face the risk of what a bullish breakout could look like moving forward. So, most of your markets are going to have this posture. As we look at the cues here, you can kind of easily spot where this channel tends to lie. Once again, just moving a trend line out in price and seeing that a lot of the bounces in the market are not necessarily occurring at a parallel channel, but more of an expanding channel. However, there are some shorter term wedges that are starting to form in stuff like the QQQ. And this is where you get areas of the market where lows with a lack of follow through or even highs that get tested more than once. Usually in a trend structure, you only have to place those highs and lows once before making new swing highs and lows, uptrend or downtrend. If that starts to change, that's indicative more of trading ranges starting to form. So as we see the market postured in this area, it is, of course, higher risk back to the upside. That's going to be true for most downtrends. But with higher risk comes good relative location. And of course, the reward is that the market does facilitate a breakout. So, couple of items that are off to the side. We do have a bit of a catalyst in regards to some new I would say global issues and potentially another economic concern. That's going to be in regards to a new virus that's kind of going around. I'm going to just kind of leave it at that, allow you to make your own due diligence research. But there are some names that we want to keep in mind for this catalyst. There was a few that sparked up last week. So let's see, why is that one not coming up? Oh yeah, typing it wrong. So names like SIGA are going to be on our Gappers watch list this morning. And these are names that we'll want to pay attention to over the next couple days. They've broken out based on this catalyst and are obviously making, at least in this case, it should be not all-time high, but close to. I think they have made new all-time highs in the pre-market. But we also want to look at these names as candidates. What are some of the positives and what are some of the negatives about trading these stocks? For one, this catalyst is fairly fresh. So whatever news circles around it, there's likely going to be very sensitive volatility. If you do get any sort of news information, that can easily sway the price very quickly. So maybe short-term trading until this starts to really form its trend or upside structure if it does continue. We'll obviously look at that as maybe breaking its all-time high. A name like this also doesn't necessarily have the type of option market that most of us are used to in some of our key trading names. So for example, this one doesn't necessarily have weekly series. A lot of the IV is going to be kind of jammed into the shortest dated option series, which is 17 June, since we passed up May last week. And even more odd, you'll notice things like the strike definition. So not really sure what's going on with this name, but this is a name that doesn't have whole dollar strikes. So while this doesn't necessarily trade in $1 intervals, these strike prices are off kilter slightly. And that means you may not see the same type of support, resistance, or even value defined exactly at a whole dollar. A lot of that tends to be defined by the option market in more liquid products. So, for example, this is what the option market should look like, but there must have been something that affected these strikes in the past. Obviously, I'm not familiar with what affected it, but it also affects multiple series. This is not the only series showing odd strikes. This one does as well. And you'll also notice that currently there are no strikes above 17. I would say 15 is probably a big inflection point. If this market does trade much higher, there's not going to be a lot of option facilitation until we get more strikes opened for this product. So this was the name that was maybe focused on last week. There's a few other names as well that started to crop up. EBS is another one to maybe pay attention to. This one, once again, doesn't have a great option market, but it's going to look a bit more typical with normal strike definition. And actually, if you're looking at how it traded, you'll see that there really hasn't been a lot of positioning yet. This may seem a bit high, and it's certainly high for the stock itself, about 4 times the 5-day average, but it's not going to be something that's going to facilitate like full upside at this point in time. We're going to need much more participation at this point. So just be careful on rallies. Um, Anytime you're in newer price ranges, usually the liquidity is a little bit low. So respect the volatility that you're kind of facing right now and understand that, the structure here looks good for more upside, but does the market have the capability to move? That's going to be more important. And then last but not least, the last name to focus on. I don't know if I've looked at this one actually. CMRX. So lower price name. Once again, large call volume coming in last Friday specifically, about 3 times the 5-day average. So this name can actually trade decent size given its price, but there are not necessarily a lot of strikes to work with. And this, in this case, is a $2 stock. So we're kind of playing with stuff that's a little unknown, undefined in certain ways. Trading these stocks is a bit risky at the moment, but this is a catalyst that's starting to form. There will be some names that are obviously going to be bulls in this catalytic time frame, and we'll see what news sparks more interaction. There might be some more candidates coming out along with just an evolving story. So all that said, play these names correctly. Take a look at their option market to get a sense of what last week looked like. And then, of course, from a technical sense, these are going to be names that need to start breaking certain levels in order to continue to trade higher, with our relative leader probably being SIGA. So, last but not least, let's take a look at Nvidia. The reason I wanted to bring this up is usually in times of markdown or downtrends, a lot of stronger market cap names can actually change weightings relative to the market because their market cap is changing so quickly. So Nvidia is one of those stocks where it encountered such a strong bull market last year that its market cap was getting to the levels of other names that we're more familiar with. At one point, it actually traded similar or even a higher market cap than the stock Meta, which a lot of people kind of treat and understand as a mega market cap name, but of course has seen some significant decline since last year. One thing you would want to often look at is what is its market cap trading at now. So Nvidia is obviously taken a bit of a sell-off. And when you look at its market cap now, we're talking about a $420 billion company with a stock trading at about 175. Now, if you look at what its all-time high looks like, about 350, that means that this particular stock has been essentially cut in half. So what was once a roughly $800 billion company at its all-time high has obviously seen much decline in market cap. Now, that of course makes sense from a price level, and um, doesn't really give us anything that we don't necessarily know already. But let's talk about another stock that is of interest in the market, and that's going to be a stock like Berkshire Hathaway. Now, remember, when you're looking at Berkshire as a conglomerate, it's much more than just holdings of an individual investor. There's a whole business model around this large conglomerate company, but a large portion of their positive and negative return does come from investments. Most notably, the largest holding at this point in time should be concentrated pretty heavily in a stock like Apple. So when you look at something like a Berkshire, you'll notice that in this correction where tech has really been beaten down and market caps have been adjusted, you'll have stocks like a Berkshire, which has also seen decline from its all-time highs. Don't get me wrong, we're not trading anywhere near 350 at the moment, much closer to 300 right now, but the market cap here is much higher. So the market is at the moment at least rewarding something like in this case, a financial related name, bit of a conglomerate in its revenue streams, but also keeping its market cap elevated to the point where it's actually beating out what was once a mega market cap technology stock. So I found that kind of interesting because as we were looking at things like the XLF, Berkshire was one of the few holdings that was really keeping this market together. It was keeping things like XLF from being in a full crash or a downtrend that's much more violent. And as you can see, the weighting here is indicative of that. Something that is weighted this high, holding up, relatively well at the time, keeps your index and your ETF strong. But as we've seen, the market has essentially pulled a lot of stocks down, Berkshire notwithstanding. And as I mentioned, there are certain holdings in this particular name that provide a little bit of a systematic risk. For example, Apple has, for the most part, also been a name that's held up quite well. But when we're talking about the potential for downside, the potential for the market to have sell swings, and even some of the positioning, you'll hear, classic names like Michael Burry, who's obviously looking at more of a bearish case for stocks like Apple. It also means not just Apple's market cap, but other market caps that hold Apple. You want to be thinking outflows in stocks like Blackstone. You want to be thinking about Berkshire Hathaway's holdings and what that can do to the systematic risk of those types of companies, and obviously where that risk is defined. So this usually happens when things are not as diversified as they might need to be to withstand some of the volatility. And that would, of course, be an if-then scenario. If Apple were to sell off further, it has implications for ETF outflows pretty much across any SPDR holding, but it also has implications for investment portfolios as heavily weighted as Berkshire's happens to be. So something to think about this week. Obviously, price and technicals can reign supreme short term, but there is a little bit of additional overlay in regards to what can occur moving forward. So with that said, my name is Jared. This is Engineering the Market. Trade safe today. We'll look at pre-market prep in just a moment. And as always, we'll talk more tomorrow.
All right, let's see here. Good morning, everybody. How's it going?
Hey, good morning, Thor.
Hey, good morning, Norm. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Wishing high-speed internet fixed all my problems, but we're making it work. I'm
We'll
not
see.
sure if your cam situation or any of that works today. I was hoping by upgrading the internet that all of this would be speeding along, but I'm still getting slow status
Yeah,
things. So, what are you
I
gonna
don't
do?
know. We'll have to work on it later because my
Yep.
camera's it's showing up on my side in vMix, but not on yours. So just roll
Yeah.
with it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, what do we do, right? Good stuff. So, hey BBT family, hey YouTube, good to see everybody out there. Good morning. Our boy Carlos is on his way up to hang out in Vancouver. Got to get his setup rocking and rolling to be ready. So I'm covering for him in the morning. Before we get started on that, I just wanted to get a little bit of a shout out to our engineering the markets own Jared. Believe it or not, everybody, it's his birthday. Guy's getting a little bit older, so make sure if you get the opportunity, give a little shout out to J-Rad today. I think he finally turned 21, so I think he can drink now, which is really exciting for him. No, I think he's like 30 something. He just doesn't look it. So anyway, let's see. Let's go ahead and get going over to our gappers here, and we got some stuff that's moving around a little bit. Oh, that didn't work. Come on now.
Yeah.
There you are. We got some stuff moving around a little bit here, which is, not too surprising. Let me pop over to the SPY real quick. There we go. The SPY kind of popping back up a little bit against this big sell it had on Friday. Really bought up at the end of the day, didn't it? So really, really good to kind of see how that came together there. How about anything overtly interesting going on out there, Norm, this morning?
No, there's no economic data being released today. I will say Davos is going on with the World Economic Forum. It's when all the world's richest elite people travel on their private jets to Europe in the mountains and tell the rest of us to not burn fuel. So that's going on. Zelensky's speaking there right now. I believe, like literally right now, he's addressing the World Economic Forum from Ukraine. And so there's always a little bit of news that comes out of that from business leaders and such. But like you said, SPY is trying to perk up a little bit this morning after a pretty brutal week again. And we'll see if it holds.
Man, it's when you put it that way, it just seems so much more important. So that's a pretty hilarious, actually. All right, so as we can see here, guys, we're getting going a little bit here with our watch list here. I'm taking a look at the SPY and what Norm, is saying. We are kind of here. We've bought up against here. We've tried to sell down through this really critical level. I kind of had this level marked for a while because it's been this low range. Jared in the engineering the markets, we're talking about these kind of inflection points and stuff like that. And I'm really just kind of keeping an eye on this. And yesterday, it really looked like Friday, sorry, it looked like we were really going to sell hard. And then we ended up closing out the day with a really strong buy, which was nice. Definitely a defense going on there. So today it'll be really interesting to see, do we chop, sell, or have we found that elusive bottom and maybe we try and run back up towards VWAP or something like that.
I'll note that dip was almost exactly down and through 20% from the all-time high, so bear market intraday territory, and then bounced from that. So we'll see if that has any bearing on what goes on here on out.
380 is definitely going to be the spot to watch, though. If we ever get back down around 380, we're going to be really paying attention to that one, aren't we?
For sure.
That'll get crazy.
Yeah, the
cool.
20% number is around 383. So if we close below that, it'll be something to watch for sure. And then 380, as you mentioned as well.
I'll just throw a little something down around 383 just to remind me of that. I like that. So today we've got some stuff gapping up. A few, actually, relatively small list, that's kind of nice. I don't mind a small list. VMware. Oh man, I haven't thought about VMware in a long time. Ever since I stopped doing the IT thing. Really gapped up though. What do they got going on? Some earnings or something like that?
No, there's rumors of a potential takeover by Broadcom.
Broadcom takeover. How do you feel the takeover plays go for you? Do those normally work out well for you? I have trouble with them.
I mean, it's like a buyout. I don't watch them.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I have trouble with these because it's kind of like once someone throws down a dollar amount that they're willing to buy something for, it's almost like they're setting value already. And you're just it makes it really hard to know what the market's going to do. But we'll keep an eye on it, I guess. Siga. Oh man, $14. What's the spread on this thing? 4-cent spread. NASDAQ listed. How's our float? 41 mil float.
This and the next one, EBS, I hate to even say this after the last 2 years, but these are both biotechs, and they're popping on catalyst of monkeypox vaccine.
Yeah, third case, I think now, right? Or something like that. Third case they found. And these, what do these guys have? Vaccines for that stuff? SIGA or potential
For smallpox, yes.
for smallpox? Ah, I see. Okay. Well, I mean, catalyst is catalyst, right? Let's see here. So SIGA in the pre-market has had pretty nice, I mean, flow to its action. The pre-market could be interesting to see how this wakes up. If it's overvalued, we could get a nice gap fill on it. Let's see on IB. I do have shares for short in IB, so that's could be something. Um, ooh, EBS has a horrible spread. If I'm going to choose one of the two, SIGA is definitely more in line. EBS has a 12 to 30 cent spread depending on where you are. Oh, 84-cent spread. Yeah, no way. All right, so EBS is broke. You cannot. That's not even playable. So that's gone. So SIGA out of the two, I'll take it for a maybe. Our buddy JD in the house. I noticed some of the Chinese stocks the past week have been kind of finding this, kind of a bottom here. It's gapped up, but I think that's kind of a generous concept. I mean, we're still inside of the previous day's candle, but above S4 and near that, I mean, could be looking to make a new high and reverse at 55 here. Maybe finally finding a bottom here. I like JD. How about you? Anything notable on this, or is this just like?
Well, two things. They had earnings late last week, I believe, on the 18th. But other than that, they're popping up primarily on lockdowns in China being eased. So
Okay, all right. And then we got our BP. Is this still just like the gas BP, right?
yep, oil.
Oil,
They got an upgrade this morning.
oil, good stuff. Black gold. Got our Texas tea here. All right, BP actually in a really kind of a cool spot. I mean, it's gapping up, and if you kind of notice, it is kind of getting into this really nice. Notice that like the top of this is kind of like this range here that's formed off of the top. So we find ourselves now kind of trying to get up back into this range that we lost quite a while ago. So this will be a very interesting place on BP to see if we can actually get inside of it, this range. Spread's not bad. Level 2 looks a little balanced for me right now, but let's see what happens. It's opening in a breakout range, so could be fun. So I got BP on there. That's our gap up list. Wow, that was fast. Gap down. GPS. Speaking of gap, let's just go with gap for the gap down. Huh. Oh man, that's hilarious. And I typed the wrong ticker. There we go. Gap is gapping. Is this like an earnings deal here? Gap.
I'm not seeing anything on Gap. I must be missing it because that's a big gap for no news.
What's a big gap for Gap?
Maybe somebody else has seen it.
Spread's a little aggressive for a $10.50 stock, but it's getting near $10. Could be an interesting area to watch. One thing that I do notice just off the daily chart that kind of sticks out to me is hold on, where's my epic? Where are you? There you are. Is this little area right here? We had this big volume come in right here. Oh, it's not gonna let me draw. Okay, never mind. Big volume area came in right here, and then we kind of have lost that area. So maybe somebody made a decision and maybe got rid of a position that they had bought here or something, and that caused maybe just the volume of that did something. Anyway. Guys, let me know in the room if y'all see anything interesting come out, YouTube land. If you guys see anything interesting news-wise on Gap, something in there, let us know. UPST, Upstart, let's see, they had a big gap, I know, on like the 10th. I remember when so here's the thing with Upstart for me, y'all, and, look at the actual body width of these candles from day to day, just coming out. It does have a very specific ATR, it looks like, which is a nice thing, but it's quite a small one for its price range. So keep in mind when you're evaluating this one, it doesn't really look like it I mean, it gets some moves, but it might
Yeah,
not be the best trender for you.
the ATR on Upstart is currently $9.82. It actually moves a lot more than you would think. It's just that
Maybe
gap
it's just because it's so
messes up the
big.
chart.
Maybe, yeah. That's not bad. I guess it's not bad. Yeah. All right. No. With everything else we've got going on, might be worth. Does Upstart have any news today going on, Norm?
I don't see any news,
All right.
but they had earnings on the 9th. It's traded that massive gap, dropped 50% plus after the earnings release. It's rebounded a good portion of that. It's actually close to doubled since its low on the 11th and up to 50. Actually, it more than doubled. And so pulling back at this point. I ran to the 9 daily and found some resistance. So
I mean, if you had bought this right here, you'd have been pretty happy about it. That's cool. All right, so we'll keep Upstart for a better than hopefully moves better possibility. We're actually, I mean, I'm not entirely in love with very many of these tickers yet, so I'll take something. Our buddy Nvidia, I know what Andrew will be trading today, is on our gap down list. We are kind of near this real indecision point, test point now, S3 here. I mean, this is definitely a fairly solid support area for Nvidia, so it'll be very interesting to watch and see what we do here. Currently, Nvidia's ladder is actually looking a little bullish to me, so it'll be interesting to see what happens today as we sell. Anything notable about our good friends Nvidia?
semis overall are pretty weak this morning. I know the president is in Asia talking about semiconductors and stuff, but yeah, just overall the sector showing weakness.
Okay. And then Santi was saying in the room, Nvidia has earnings coming up this week, so maybe some
Well,
pre-selling or something.
Nvidia specifically has mentioned cutting back on hiring, so that might be part of it as well.
Okay. So so we got some stuff.
I don't know that earnings on Wednesday is going to be making a move in the pre-market on Monday, but it's sector weakness and
Yeah.
some stories about them hiring, not hiring.
Yeah. So because if you pop here to, I'm going to pop over to the Qs real quick, because you can see Qs defended, 280 along with, SPY yesterday, but Qs looks a lot more, like Norm is saying, Qs opening slightly under value for this little range here. So it's definitely showing some weakness going into the open. So that'll be really interesting to see. Just
So
noted.
Mitchell on YouTube pointed out that Citi downgraded several apparel stocks, including Gap, due to inflation. So that's possibly what's going on with Gap.
Okay. Downgrades. Now we're talking. I like downgrades. All right, and speaking of Citi, they just hit the gap up list, so I'll toss them on real quick. They looks. Oh yeah, look at that. That's very interesting. They're looking to potentially open above yesterday's high, so that's quite a pop for them in the pre-market. Big sell on Friday. Nice recovery now above the high. Could be interesting. Nice. Yeah, why not? Let's see. We'll see. I have this natural contrarian nature to me. Whenever stocks look like they're going to open strong like this, I never like taking them long. But we'll see what happens with it. All right. Now we got LI popping across. Looks like our list is just going to build itself, Norm, as we go through. LI Auto just popped onto the gap down for us, so I'll do that one, and then we'll go ahead and grab a couple of maybe grab a couple tickers, and then we'll do some event stuff. Let's see. Cue it up, guys. Anything you guys want me to look at?
Take a look at XPEV. XPEV have had earnings.
Yeah.
They're not doing much right now, but I anticipate that'll change as we get to the market open.
XPEV, he says. XPEV. Typing yes. All right. Not loading though. Give it time. Walmart no volume, but daily looks very interesting. What? All right. So LI in the I feel like I'm not loading now. There we go. Come on. It does not want to load XPEV.
No, I don't. That's weird. Every once in a while, you'll get that glitch, and you got to restart the program. But
Yeah.
like I said, it's not doing a whole lot right now, but it'll likely be active later. It's working for me. So
yeah, weird. Who knows? Okay, so I'll pop back into it. We'll do a couple things, and hopefully I can get back. It'll load one of these times. I'll click on it, and it'll like me enough to load. You can tell it's trying. It's like, I want to load everything else though, just fine. All right. Anyway, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and look over here. BAC, any thoughts? Let's look at BAC real quick. I'll throw these, make a little column for suggestions. BAC. And then we had Apple and Walmart. That we'll put on our review list. And then we gotta start thinking about what tickers we're actually gonna trade, y'all, because this is a lot of stuff here, but not a lot of it's really like, I'm not stoked. LI is, look at the 22.9 held percent by institutions. All right, BAC. So BAC, one thing going for it is the daily chart. I mean, along with the market, it had a big buy up on the prior session. But with that being said, you know, it's correlating with the market heavily the way it looks like that. So we got to kind of pay attention to that on BAC. If the market goes weak, I doubt you get a very good play out of BAC today. But if the market decides to rally today, you know, BAC is definitely, you know, pretty oversold as far as just value and like a greater, you know, in the past year or so. I mean, we're pretty low. So if there's a buy point, depending on the analytics, obviously I'm not a long-term portfolio strategist here, but I mean, you know, just from the way it looks like it'd be a nice spot to pick up a few shares. So, you know, we'll have to keep an eye on that for sure. Walmart has been a brutal sell since I think it was its earnings came out. It gapped from 150 down, and then the next day gapped again. I mean, this thing was just completely. But notice the volume signature here on Walmart as we sold down. Big volume, smaller volume, smaller volume, smaller volume, right? So we've definitely settled down and come into a support area, but our volume is still significantly higher than its normal average trading volume. So keep an eye on this one. If it starts to rally back, but it rallies on low volume, could just be a pullback for a larger move down later. But if we can pick up some volume as we make these new highs, maybe people start to buy the dip on this one. But this will be, you know, we're missing a lot in the pre-market to want to get involved on this one. We're opening very high on a central range, so more likely to sell right now back through the valued range than I would say than to break away from it, just looking at it generically now. But, you know, keep an eye on that. Apple, kind of, this is, so Norm was pointing out that tech in general is looking a little weak. Apple found itself kind of throwing this nice little hammer doji here off of the bottom of its, you know, range, which was really nice. The volume not bad as well. If the market bounces, I think Apple's going to be one of our better opportunities is as far as a quicker move back up into range. We've got really tight ranges here, so it could run for them very aggressively. So, but it'll be very interesting to see how we play as we try and break back above these prior 2 days candles. Once we're above them, it should be pretty easy for us to run the inside of this candle here, but we need to get inside first, and we're not very far from that. So kind of like what I said before with Walmart, we're kind of opening in an area where it's more likely that we sell than we rally. So what we might see at the market at the open, the way these techs are looking, we might see a hard sell at the open. You know, run it down into previous day's low, previous daily levels, PDC, previous day low, stuff like that. You know, and then, you know, accumulate for a little bit and then do like an afternoon run again. I'm not sure if there's going to be enough sentiment or enough excitement, I think is maybe the word. I'm not sure if there's going to be enough excitement today or this Monday for people just to come in and just start buying stuff like crazy. So, I mean, maybe it will. You never know. But I'm not seeing that volume in the pre-market, that's for sure. It doesn't look that exciting. Speaking of, if I run my high volume scanner, I'm getting Apple and Nvidia are the two main stocks that pop out for me. So it looks like tech is seeing some flow. And then something called NEE, which has no volume, so it must have been a block. So yeah, so Apple. So it looks like tech's getting the attention right now. Apple and Nvidia are carrying the volume right now. So it should be interesting. Cool. All right. Well, let's do this. I'm gonna pop over to our guy Norm, run through some community events, and then we'll pop back over and we'll work on actually getting us a watch list put together. Coming at you.
All right. That is not the right one. That one's very old.
All right, hold on. Stand by. Reload.
Just go to the webinars page. If you could pull that up, that's fine, Thor.
Okay. All right. All right, so webinar page. Stand by. All
right, I'll just guys, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown.
Yeah.
You can pull that down. Just put your chart up. Every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, you've got onboarding with Carlos. That is for all members. Just put your normal screen up, if you would, Thor.
Working
your
on
charts. 7 p.m. Eastern onboarding. Even trial members are eligible to go to that. And then on Tuesdays, 8 p.m., you've got technology. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. on Monday, you've got technology. Artie's going to be talking about how to use sentiment, bonds, and options in decision making. Then tomorrow night, you've got Andrew, 8 p.m. Eastern. He's going to be talking about how we select stocks, how he selects stocks in the morning to trade for the day. And then this Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, you've got Randy Howell, psychology, talking about building a winning trading psychology mindset. Thursday is mentoring at 11, 4, and 8. And that is, if you want to, that is it. Take it away, brother. For levels.
Perfect. So I can't wait for Andrew's webinar on selecting his stock watch list. I'm pretty sure it's log in, take whatever Brian and Norm posted, and start trading. Webinar done. Now, better than my watch list. My watch list is sit around and wait for PivotBot to tell me something. So, but anyway. So we're going to go ahead and hit some lists. We've got some YouTube. If you guys have a couple of tickers y'all want me to also look out, I got BAC in there. I see LLY. Is that the ticker, Mr. Trader? Throw a $sign on the front of them when you post them in there, just because I'm a little special. So if you go to post a ticker, do the $sign. That way I know it's a ticker, because, what are you going to do? That's me. All right, so let's see here. I like Neo too, Vero. We're going to check that one out for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit some of these room tickers, and let's start putting us together for a watch list. When I'm looking for a watch list specifically, right, we want good order flow, right? We want good ranges. And that's the thing for me that I really like to cue into, is it's not just that the stock is moving, but is it in a place where we actually can get a good play, on this? If it's going to open up in the middle of a range, for instance, then for me personally, because I play more extreme price action, good chance I'm not going to be into it. So first off, let's go ahead and a couple of the room lists we were talking about from YouTube. We got LLY. So LLY on the daily, I kind of like just where it is, right? I like that we find ourselves. I wish my Epic Pen was working right now. I like that we find ourselves up here above 300, but in this R3 area. So I feel like it'd be very easy for us to rally here or sell. So it's a really nice, kind of a decision-making point here. I like the gap. The only thing I don't like on LLY is the spread is super aggressive on this one. So you're talking $1.50 to $2, right, on this stock as its spread goes, and which makes it very, very challenging to manage risk on a stock that is this expensive with a spread that is that wide, right? Because it just makes risk management incredibly difficult. So, and then if you look at the intraday chart so far, right, very little pre-market action on this one. So, but again, I do like the daily range. So could this set up into a trade for, could we short here and come back across the daily range? Absolutely. Puts in big old candles, moves a long way, $15, $20 in a day. So, but with a spread like $1.50, that's not very surprising. So anyway, there's that one. Me personally, I will not roll LLY on my too much of a price, too much of a spread. All right, NEO. So NEO has been a good buddy to the room for quite a while, right? But lately for me, NEO has been a little more challenging to trade, and that's just because generically on most days, NEO looks a lot like this lately. You kind of, on the 15-minute chart, you're just kind of getting these broad candles. You get a little bit of a move, but for the most part, we've just been kind of chopping around. And you can see that for the most part, right, day after day, we tend to just be in small ranges, break down small range. So it's like once every 8 days or 9 days, you get a nice mover. But for the most part, this stock just tends to underperform lately. So the one thing that is notable on NEO is that if we make some new lows between these 1, 2, 3 days here, we start to lose $16, right, and move down. Well, that starts to look really interesting because we had some volume here and we bought off of it. We could lose, but if we do that, you're going to be short. If you shorted NEO today, you would be short right into $15 and right into the bottom of this range. So you only get about $1 move before you start running into some really heavy support area. So I just don't know if NEO for me, and this is what I'm talking about isolating, is it going to be a good trader today? Does it have a good potential, right? It's in the middle of this range. So is it going to run to the outside? Yeah, of course, most likely. Could also chop, but does it go to the outside, then break out and give you a nice big move? Who knows, right? Less likely when something looks like this. You're more likely you're going to run into the bottom of these candles, find heavy support, and chop, right? But if you do break down, that move there should be pretty epic. Right now, also missing a little pre-market volume for me. But, at least we do have... Actually, never mind. Volume picked up a lot in the last couple minutes while I was talking. So we are picking up in volume, so I kind of like that. So we'll have to see where it goes. Level 2 right now, looking relatively balanced to me, with some orders actually appearing on the bullish side, but maybe a bearish run first. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. Okay, let's see. The other one was LI. We already looked at that one. LI, see, so now LI is more compelling for me than NEO, for instance, to the downside. Now, LI is not as good of a ladder structure, 15-cent spread, right, on a $23 stock, which is not great. Pre-market action also not as clean. But notice the daily here. Notice how we did indecision here, and now we're near this low. If we lose this low, we're rejecting the top of this range. I would expect a move to the bottom back to $20 for value. That's nice. That's a $3 potential move there for me. I like that. I like that potential there for LI. So LI right now, I'm going to start a new list down here, and I'm going to move stocks that I want to take a look at a little bit closer to the open on that one. For me, my watch list actually never solidifies until the open. The way I trade pivots, I don't really trade pre-market at all anymore. When I do, it doesn't really seem to be that beneficial. But the way I trade pivots, I actually need the price to open in order for me to decide what type of strategy I'm going to be using. And that's based upon the extension that we're at when we open, right? So I won't really know what my list is going to be until right before we open. But we'll get some moderator lists in here to help us build a good one for you, and then I'll tell you what I'm liking the most so far. All right, so let's go back out here to, let's see. Let's go ahead and back and check out VMware, and let's evaluate this thing. What do y'all feel about and then we'll get like CCL, and we'll get like MRK. We'll take a couple looks at those out of the YouTube room. What do you guys think about VMware personally? Do y'all like VMware as a potential trader, or do you find the aggressive spread a little off-putting? Spready, Jonathan? You feel spready? See, I kind of feel the same. I mean, I like the range that I like how extended we are. I feel like we could play it back the other direction maybe. But do we have shares for short? We do have shares for short. Oh, it is NYSE. It's a NYSE stock with a high spread. So seems a little sketchy. What do you think? Hard pass? Hard pass for almost everybody. Okay, hard pass for basically the room. All right, so I agree. I'm going to hard pass on that one. How about our buddy JD? How are we feeling on... Yeah, it's shoe wrong. I think you got the right idea. Not the... I think that's the right idea on VMware, by the way. JD looks... JD, I love the lower extension here on S4. I love how we've set value here. And if we make a new high at 55, I really think we could get an aggressive upward run on JD, especially with the COVID relief news coming out of China. The only thing I don't like is that we're opening super high in the intraday range, but not high enough. If we open right around 54, I'd actually look to short through the central pivot, maybe back down to 51, and then along later, potentially. But if we can rally a little bit more in the pre-market and open above the previous day's high, then I think I'm going to look for a breakout on JD today, which could be a lot of fun. So I'm going to actually keep JD on here, although I really wish it had some better pre-market action. BP is in a breakout range, so that's kind of fun. That we find ourselves in a breakout range. We are setting ourselves in this new daily high, and oil has been very, very strong lately. How do you guys feel about BP? I like the spread seems to not be too bad. It is a NYSE listed stock, and we do have shares for short. Kip likes BP. All right, so I think for now, with a lack of better options, I think we'll leave BP on, and we'll give it one more look-see before we open up here. But I do like the range. I would like a little bit more volume in the pre-market, but this is a NYSE listed, right? So my play on this one is actually what Sohan just threw out in the room. I would probably, hey, good morning, Prasanna. I would be looking for probably a pullback to somewhere around 32. I want to see if BP opens and brings the volume. I'd like to see it sell back down to 32. We have a solid bid setting up above 32. But look, notice 32 is almost empty, right? But we've got this really nice bid set here at 32.8, 32.07, 32.08, and 32.09. So it will be interesting to see if we don't get downside ladder, we could easily run into 32, and then that'll act as the held bid right at like 32.04. We won't quite make 32 and hold there and pop if we can hold this in pre-market. If not, if we lose 32 now, the low volume, it'll act like a low float basically, and it'll just run the low volume to the downside. You guys ever notice that with the low floats? You use the L2 backwards basically. You use the big orders as bounce points. So it's a solid company. So we'll see what's going on. Should long Chevron and Oxy if long crude. So Shu, that's a solid point. All right, we'll leave BP on there for now. Gap. What do you guys think about the Gap? I personally, I don't think I've traded Gap at all, so I don't really know how it plays intraday. It looks like it's had some okay moves. Any of y'all trade this one before? Y'all trade Gap at all? No Gap? No, not a lot of Gap. Nobody likes Gap. Okay. It sucks. Okay. So Kenneth speaks for the room. I think he's right. Okay. Upstart. How about Upstart? So Upstart for me reads, but Norm made a good point, which is with this big gap, it kind of broke the chart a little bit. For me, it reads very constrained. But once you get out to like the intradaily chart, it does in fact move and have nice moves. The question is, for a $43 stock with a 30-cent spread, is that doable? For me, the spread's a little aggressive. It's really hard. The way I trade, especially on a $40 stock, the way I trade, I often use 5-cent spread, 5-cent, 10-cent stops. So thinking about on a $40 stock, so thinking about playing a $40 stock with a it would have to be like a 60-cent stop or a 70-cent stop. Even with a larger ATR, it's gonna make it make it a little difficult to trade, I think. So for me, Upstart's gonna be a hard no. But y'all let me know if you end up wanting me to take a look at that later. But for me, I'm gonna pass, especially with stuff like Nvidia. Nvidia I really like today, which is not normal. I normally don't like Nvidia. Today I do. I need it to sell a little bit more before it's a buy, but I want to see if Nvidia is going to hold this 160 support it's established. If the market goes strong today, Nvidia is where I'm going to, we've got COVID stuff. We've got Nvidia. I think we've got some potential upgrade stuff going on with the semis or something like that. I know so we've got, if the semis, and Norm was right to point out that the semis have a lot of pressure this morning. So, but if the market relieves and bounces, this is going to probably be where I'm going to look for some quick trades. So, Nvidia on there. Citi, interesting play. No volume in the pre-market yet, so I really need this thing to wake up a little bit. But I like where it's looking to open very strong. I mean, if it opens up above R4 on the intraday, it could be a breakout today. So I kind of like that. LI hit our gappers. I'm probably not going to trade LI today. Just not really my bag. Same with XPEV. NEO has good structure, so I'll throw NEO on. All right, how about y'all? What else are we looking at? I'm going to clear those out. So right now, my current list is whittled down to these 6. I agree, Dave Michaels. The spread, man, just kills it. Let's see. You like BAC over like a Citi? Yeah, I see what you're saying. BAC actually looks nice on the daily too. So we might look for some of these stocks, especially the banking ones, are starting to look like they could be in for a little bit of a bounce today. So it'll be really interesting to see how that's. JP Morgan just popped into the gap up list. So it looks like maybe our banks, maybe financials are looking to bounce a little bit today. We're definitely getting some response across. So that'll be really interesting to see. Yeah, that could be cool. All right, so let's see what else we got there. I think that's most of those. All right, we've got a watch list in from Dima. Dima's liking BP, Apple, AMD, and JD. I don't know how I got away with not looking at AMD today with semis moving around. Nobody said look at AMD. So AMD really rejected the bottom of this range the other day and now has come back kind of in towards value. See, AMD is one of the ones that makes me not like the semi market. Just the way this looks here, this for me looks like it wants to sell down through the range, but it may bounce right out of it. High value here, but it'd be a little sketchy on AMD. AMD, once it lost 100, has really been having trouble getting back to the glory. And then last one I want to look on there. I've seen it a couple of times. CCL popping in. So CCL's been, I like CCL, although the pre-market needs a little love. I like the daily. I love how we set this very beautiful high volume black cross candle here, which basically our open price and our closing price ended up being the same exact price. So I often find these near reversal points. I like how we then retested S6 and bought off of it. So CCL, I'm going to look for it to hold this 1280 area. If it can hold that and start making some new highs, that we could be looking for some potential travel action. And then last but not least, how do you get away without, hey, you're welcome, CFC. How can you get away without checking out our good buddy Twitter? So Twitter got broke. Twitter used to be Twitter's always been like kind of like not the best stock to trade in the world as far as it's just overall trading action, but lately I don't know what to do with Twitter. Ever since the on again off again relationship with Musk has started on this thing, I find this stock very difficult to trade. I hate playing long trends on it because they don't tend to hold. And it can go from very big gappy kind of moves to very tight consolidated days. So it's like lately we gapping after hours, big moves after hours, but the days themselves have been very tight and very, very non-performing kind of days. So if we could make a new high maybe above like 38.70, 39 or something like that, maybe the market reads it as a bottom. If tech bottoms, maybe we squeeze on this one, but I just don't know if anyone's overtly interested in this thing right now. Like I don't know if any, because I mean, you kind of like want to like buy it because if you buy it, if it goes through, you're making money no matter what happens. But if it doesn't go through, it's a horrible investment, right? Like if Elon pulls out, I mean, and it doesn't go through, this thing just goes, upside down really quick. And I just don't know if it's a hard buy. You got to be living a little bit on the edge to want to pick up Twitter into your long-term portfolio right now. All right, everybody. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it for the pre-market show for the morning. I believe we have Andrew in. I believe our own prophet of profit, Brian, is back in town. He went to Egypt not that long ago, took all of the power from the pyramids, wasn't enough power, so he had to go down to South America. He said he was going to Machu Picchu. I personally think he went down there and drained all the power out of the Mayan pyramids. So now he's going to come in this morning really super powered and ready to go. So have fun with that. So I hope everyone has a great trading day. I appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on a little later. Norm, brother, thanks, brother.